So welcome everyone to the Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. This is our kickoff to the Fall 2013 series. We have a jam-packed next few months and we're excited to get the program rolling today. So the fall series will run through December 2013. You can see a list of upcoming sessions on blackboard.com/bits. And in a few slides I have a list of our upcoming sessions so you can take a look at those. And a few reminders for those of you who this might be your first session and you haven't joined us in a few months. Anyone can attend these webinars. So if you have colleagues and peers, make sure to get the word out. Or if you have anyone who's not even a Blackboard client, they are allowed to attend. And our webinars are always free, so you will never have to pay. And all of our webinars are recorded, and they are listed on our YouTube channel, which I have the link in another slide. We also will email out the recording for every webinar you attended that week, so look for that. And if you are interested in presenting, you can always email myself or my team. You can most easily reach us at community@blackboard.com. Now today's BITS team, my name is Lauren Krisnerick and I'll be your moderator for today. We'll have a few different moderators over the next few months, so we'll introduce ourselves at the beginning of every webinar. I'm on the community programs team here at Blackboard, and I've seen many of you in some of our other programs such as our cohorts or our exemplary course program. Our BITS expert today will be Misty Cobb. She is a solutions engineer for us here at Blackboard, and she'll be helping answer your questions while our speaker Francesca is going through her presentation today. And if you have any follow-up questions, you can also reach out to Misty directly. Misty will be on several or most of our calls during the next fall season, so you'll see her quite a lot. So be sure to ask your questions to her. Here's a list of our upcoming webinars. Today's webinar, of course, that you all signed up for is to maximize engagement and extend the learning experience with social learning. This is presented by Francesca Goneconti, Monaco, and I'll introduce her on the next slide. Here's a look at some of our upcoming webinars. I will point out one new change we have for the fall. We are trying something new from feedback we heard from our spring session. We are trying office hours. So on Monday, September 30th, we'll kick off the office hours and they will focus on course design. The first half of that session, the first 30 minutes, are experts, and we'll have experts from our consulting the product along with solutions engineers who will be answering the most frequently asked questions about course design. And then the second half of office hours will be an open Q&A format, so you can ask questions and get quick demos and answers to any questions that you have. So make sure to check that out. And you can see a full lineup, as I said, on blackboard.com/bits. And also all of the recordings will be posted on YouTube. We have the shortened link above, and we will send out this link in the follow-up email. We have all of our webinars from the spring on our BITS YouTube channel right now, found on Blackboard TV, and we'll be adding all of the fall webinars each week as we continue. Now a little bit about today's speaker. Francesca Goneconti Monaco is a senior manager for the product marketing team at Blackboard Learn. She focuses on community engagement, content management, student engagement, and social learning. Francesca has been with Blackboard for a little over 2 years, and she is a graduate of Georgetown University. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Francesca, who's going to take us through her engagement and extending the learning experience with social learning. Francesca?
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren. Thanks for the introduction, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm really excited to be here for the first BITS webinar. So I'm going to jump right in, and I wanted to talk to you about 3 things today. So I wanted to start off with a discussion around what social learning really is. What does the term social learning mean, and why is it so important now? Why is it something that, so many people are talking about at this point in time? And then I want to dive into how Blackboard Learn helps with social learning. How is Blackboard Learn fostering social learning? What is the Blackboard Learn approach to social learning, and how can you get involved and be fostering and be involved in social learning yourself through your courses and through the activities that you are involved with at your institution. Now, before I jump into the content, I just wanted to take a quick poll of the audience, and I wanted to just better understand who I have here in the room with me. So if you can give me a green check mark if you are a faculty member, if you actually teach classes, teach students, any type of educator, if you can give me a green check mark. Okay, so I see about 8 green check marks so far. 9, I see a few more coming in. So it looks like about a third of you guys are probably educators. How many of you have a more IT-focused role? Maybe you work with academic technology, part of the IT organization at some level. Okay, great. We have a handful of those folks as well. And then maybe one last group. Are there people who are on the academic administration side of the house? Maybe you're a dean or have another role on the academic side of the house. You may not necessarily teach courses. Okay, so we have a couple of those as well. Okay, great. Well, that is really helpful as I go through just to get a better sense of who I'm speaking with today. And as Lauren mentioned, feel free to type in any questions you have in the chat window as I go through. I will stop throughout and check with Lauren and with Misty to see how the questions are coming along. And you guys can feel free at that point to let me know if there are questions that I should address out loud that maybe aren't being addressed in the actual chat. I'm happy to do that. All right, so let's get started. What is social learning? So when it comes to social learning, I would say that there really is not one agreed upon definition out there. Everyone really has different definitions, different words that they use to describe social learning. And social learning really isn't new. So Albert Bandura actually introduced social learning theory back in the 1970s. And his point of view is that people learn from one another by observing and modeling the actions of others. That was his definition of social learning theory back in the 1970s. And that's really evolved over the years. And if you take a look at what social learning means today, you can search on Google, for example, and you'll get many different definitions popping up. Here are just a few of those. And you can see how they all are a little bit different. So the first one is about learning that takes place at a wider scale than individual or group learning. It's about social interaction between peers, sharing between peers in a network. And the third one, which really speaks to me, using the power of social interaction to improve learning impact. So what is really at the core of all of these different definitions? Well, I would say it's about learners learning from each other. And when it comes to social learning, this is really more about this informal interaction, this social interaction of learners learning from each other. It's about this behavior. And this behavior has been taking place forever. This behavior has been taking place in, college hallways, in the quad, in dorm rooms, everywhere that you interact with people, you are learning from one another. However, today, there really are a lot of online tools that keep us all connected 24/7 that are really introducing new opportunities for us to be engaging in social learning with one another. So why is social learning so important right now? Well, because of the needs and expectations of today's active learner. Today's learner is different. Today's learner takes a more active role in the learning experience versus a more passive role. And I think a great example of this can be seen with the Speak Up National Research Project. This is an initiative of Project Tomorrow, which is one of the nation's leading education nonprofit organizations that's dedicated to empowering the student voice in education. And their national research project in 2011 came out with this finding that today's students in our highly connected, information-intensive world, learning is a 24/7 enterprise. The traditional school day is only one small segment of today's learners' personal learning experience. So I think, this is a great way to sum it up, and this is probably no surprise to any of you who are working with students and who are, learners yourselves. The Speak Up National Research Project went on to say that today's generations of students are documentarians. So they have strong interest in analyzing and sharing their experiences, their insights, their opinions, and their feelings with their community. And they view this process of documenting and sharing, as components of this larger personal learning experience. I think that this research project really nicely sums up what today's active learners are all about. Now, we at Blackboard also did a lot of research as well, and we were trying to think about, who is today's learner and what do they really want out of the education experience. So we conducted research with over 600 students we worked with, we conducted study groups, interviews, focus groups, surveys, and we really tried to get into the minds of students and understand what they were looking for. And to no surprise, what we heard is that what they want in education mirrors what they experience outside of education. For example, they said they want to be able to easily connect with their education community online. But they told us that it wasn't very easy for them to do so. They told us that education has a different network than a lot of the networks that they were currently at the time connected to online. So they said that the education network was different because it wasn't just about their friends. Their education network was about their classmates, their current classmates, their former classmates, their professors, their teaching assistants, their advisors and mentors, those that are in study groups with them, those that are in clubs and groups and committees with them. And they told us that it's often hard to identify all of the different people in their network online with the current tools that they had at the time. And this research was really conducted, I would say between 12 and 24 months ago is when we really conducted this research. So, they told us that they were struggling to be able to identify the people within their network online with the social tools that were available to them. But they really wanted to better be able to find these people. So they said, for example, they could be sitting in a class with 200 people. And they may be friends with, 3 or 4 of them. But then there are, almost 100 other people that they haven't met. They don't really know. They aren't able to identify online. But they said that there really was a lot of potential value in being able to identify and connect with them. They also told us they had a desire to keep networks separate. So they talked about having their social network online and then having this education or learning network. And they said that, they felt more comfortable keeping these two things separate. The things you want to talk about with your close friends is very different than what you want to talk about with the people who you may be studying with for, a midterm, for example. And we also heard this from a lot of educators that we spoke with as well. They would like to be able to connect with their students, but they don't necessarily want to be sharing the personal information. You don't want to blur those lines. Now, is this something that you guys have been sharing as well? Can you give me a green check mark if this resonates with you from your experience? Okay, great. So I definitely see some green check marks there. So that's great. And this is what our research was telling us at Blackboard. But we also went out and looked at the research that was out there. So in 2012, there was the ECAR study of undergraduate students in information technology, and ECAR is the EDUCAUSE Center for Analysis and Research, as I'm sure many of you know. And in this study, they came away with some interesting stats. So one of their findings was that 60% of students said that it was important to have an online forum to communicate with other students. But then 60% of students also said that they wanted to keep their academic and social lives separate. And what was interesting about this is if you looked at this data a year before, these numbers have increased. So we see an increasing trend. More and more students are saying that they want to be able to communicate with other students online. More and more students are saying that they want to keep their academic and social lives separate. And the conclusion that the ECAR study had in 2012 is that students want to connect with one another through social networks, but they are cautious of mixing academic and social lives. So the recommendation was to provide students with networking opportunities that support their academic work, but that are one step removed from oversight. So this is something that is interesting as well, and we heard this from the students that we spoke to through our research as well. They want to be able to communicate with each other, but they don't necessarily, want to have constant oversight over everything that they are doing. They want to be able to create their own study groups, their own online spaces, so they can be speaking with each other and not have to be graded for everything they say or be evaluated based on the things that they're saying to each other. So how can Blackboard Learn help? We talked about this need, with students and active learners today to be able to connect and communicate with each other and have this separation between their social and academic lives. And we recognize this, and we decided to build a set of social learning tools in Blackboard Learn. What we did is we created a global learning network within Blackboard Learn. So this learning network is all about enabling Blackboard Learn users to learn from each other. So you may be wondering, okay, well, how is this network different from other social networks out there? And what we found in speaking with students as well as educators was that there are different networks for different purposes. So you have Facebook, for example. This is what students and educators talk to us about as their social network. Social network. Their social network, where they like to communicate and share things with their friends on a personal level. Then they talk to us about LinkedIn. So some students, as well as some of our adult learners, for example, as well as a lot of college students, are using LinkedIn now as their professional network, sharing their resume, connecting to further their career and their job prospects. But they really saw an opportunity for Blackboard to be this learning network. They said they're already logging into Blackboard every day to manage their courses, their organizations, their campus life. And they would like to be able to, remain in this place and be able to more easily connect with the people within Blackboard. So we created a set of tools to help this purpose. The first goal here was to enable users to have an identity within the online learning environment. And then once everyone has an identity, we wanted to ensure that they have the ability to discover each other, to discover their learning network online. And then from there, we wanted to ensure that we had the tools for the users to connect, communicate, and collaborate with their learning network. So social learning in Blackboard Learn, what we really focused on was trying to enable students and educators to identify, connect, and communicate with their global learning network, to really foster informal learning, to complement the more formal learning experiences. And you can think about this from the student perspective as well as the educator perspective. So, from a student perspective, we want to be able to foster this informal learning among students. If we think about it from an educator perspective, we want to be able to enable educators to be learning from each other informally without always having to rely on a more formal professional development opportunity, for example. These tools were also meant to extend the learning experience beyond the classroom. So we have online courses through Blackboard Learn. You have in-person courses that many of you, I'm sure, teach. So we wanted to extend this learning experience beyond the classroom. And ultimately, we wanted to help improve student engagement, campus connectedness, and ultimately retention through these efforts. So I want to jump in and actually show you a tour of these tools. But before I do that, I just want to check the chat and see if there are any questions or comments that have come through as I've introduced social learning and our approach at Blackboard. Okay.
Francesca, you should be good to go.
Great. Thanks, Lauren. Okay. So what I am going to do is I am going to share my screen. So give me one moment to do that. And please, Lauren, if you can let me know if you are able to see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen. You'll just need to minimize the left-hand panel. Yep.
Great.
If everyone wants to give a green check mark. Okay, you're good to go, Francesca.
Great. And Lauren, if you can just let me know if it's loading slowly or if there are any technology issues as I'm going through, that would be great.
Will do.
Okay. So I am logged in as Suzanne Johnson, who is a student at Monument University. And I am going to show you where the new social learning tools can be found. And I will note these tools are dependent on a certain service pack. So depending on what service pack your institution is currently running, you may or may not see these in your environment at this time. They are also part of the community engagement module of Blackboard Learn. For those of you who are maybe on the IT side of the house and know about the different modules of Blackboard Learn. So the new social learning tools are found in the global navigation panel. So if I go into my global nav, I'm going to first click into my profile, which is where I create my identity. So you can see my profile here, and today I am going to be Suzanne Johnson. And Suzanne Johnson, as you can see here, is a biology major, and she has a short description about herself. As you can see here, she has loved the sciences ever since she took 9th grade bio. She also enjoys running track and following football. So each profile has a brief description about the person that they can customize. And then on the right-hand side, you see a profile wall. And this is where someone can start to communicate with their learning network. So you can see different comments that Suzanne has made, and then you can see that these different people in her network, Alice Apple, for example, has responded and commented on her post here on the right-hand side. You can also see on the left-hand side her network. So you can see different people that are following her and those that she is following. And you can also see spaces. And I'll discuss spaces in a moment. But what's nice here is that you can see different spaces, you can see different people's networks, so you can, see who people are following, see what spaces they're a part of, and get ideas for maybe spaces that you may want to join or people that you may want to connect with to build your network. So I'm going to go into the Edit My Profile screen and show you different options for that. So on the left-hand side, you have the option to start with information from Facebook or Twitter. So for example, you can pull in a profile picture from one of those sites. Then you are able to choose how your name is displayed in your profile here. And just to note, this does not change the way that your name is displayed in your actual Blackboard Learn account. So some of our system administrators ask us, does this change the name that is going to be in their Blackboard Learn account overall? And no, it does not. It just changes what's on their profile. So for example, if somebody has a nickname that they go by, among their peers, they can have that here on their profile. So as I mentioned, you can share what you're studying, or if you're an educator, you can share your area of interest, your field of interest, and then you can also share a short description about yourself. Now on the right-hand side, this is a really important piece of the profile. We've created different privacy options, and we worked closely with students and educators to determine what the best options would be for the privacy options. And I'll start off at the bottom. The first setting that you can choose is hidden. So pretty much this is like not even having a profile. No one can view the profile, message you, follow you. They can't interact with you. You can't interact with other people. So, you know, if someone does not feel comfortable with engaging in social learning at all, they can choose to keep their profile hidden. The next level is private, and this is the default setting is currently private. So when you are private, everyone has to request permission to follow you. So they cannot see your profile. They cannot see your posts, for example, without requesting to follow you. When you are private, anyone who's in a course, organization, or space with you can find you, so they can discover you, and they can message you. Those are the settings for private. The next setting is called My Institution. So anyone from your institution can find you, can contact you. However, you do have the option here, there's a checkbox here, to require others to request permission to follow you. So they can't just follow you and add you to their network without you accepting that request. And then the final privacy option is all Blackboard users. So this allows anyone with a Blackboard profile to find you and contact you. And this includes Blackboard users at all of our Blackboard Learn institutions around the globe. And again, you have this opportunity to require others to request permission to follow you first. So if you click all Blackboard users, you're really opening up to the global learning network. You're taking advantage of the ability to network with other Blackboard Learn users around the globe. So those are the 4 options that I wanted to talk about here. I'm going to cancel out. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to quickly show you that when you make edits to your profile, you can quickly view your profile card. And this profile card is a new feature that will now pop up in multiple areas of Blackboard Learn. So you'll see this in a second in some of the other social tools that I'll show you. But you can also see this profile card in the course environment. So for example, when a student participates in different collaborative tools, if they participate in a discussion board or a blog or a wiki or a journal, this profile card, you can hover over the person in a discussion board, and this profile card will pop up. So you can learn a bit more about them and be able to connect and communicate with them through the social tools very quickly and easily. Okay, so I'm going to cancel out of the profile card. And I showed you my profile, and this is really how you create your identity. And now I'm going to show you how you can discover others. And this is through the People tool. So when you go to the People tool, this is where you can view your learning network. So when you view your learning network, you are viewing everyone you have some sort of relationship with. So this may be anyone who's in a course with you, or anyone who's in an organization with you, or anyone who's in a space with you, or anyone who you have chosen to follow. The other thing that you can do from here is search all profiles. And by searching all profiles, you are searching the global learning network. So this is really how you can search and find others at other Blackboard Learn institutions. You also have the opportunity to click into your institution, and you're able to see a directory of everyone who has made their profile available to the entire institution. So you'll remember I talked about the different privacy settings that are available, and one of them was called My Institution. So if you choose to make it available to your institution, you will be visible in the Blackboard demo directory. And then Blackboard demo is the university name for this server that I'm on right now. So you can see everyone who has made their profile visible to the institution. You can also click into each of your courses and organizations. So you can see different courses here that she's a part of. You can also see different organizations that she's a part of. So she's a part of this pre-vet society, and there's 8 others in this with her. So it's very easy to identify who is in your network. We talked about how during our research, we learned that students had difficulty, figuring out who everyone was in their class and everyone who was in a group or club or committee with them. Now you're quickly able to do this through this people tool. So I'm going to go back to my learning network, and I'm just going to show you what you can do through this learning network. So you can click or actually hover right over each person and learn a little bit more about them. So you can see that Annie majors in journalism. She's a junior. She's from Chicago. She's an editor of the Monument News. And from here, from this profile card, I can view her full profile. I can send her a message. I can, in this case, unfollow her because I currently have chosen to follow her already. I can also choose to block her. So if I feel that I want to block this person, I don't want to show up in this person's network. I don't want this person to show up in my network. I can choose to block her. And you can see the exact terms of what that will mean to block her. And you can do so quickly and easily. So this was important to students. They wanted to have the ability to, block people that they didn't feel comfortable interacting with in this learning network. You can also choose to report anyone's profile, anyone who is doing something that you find to be inappropriate. Now, anyone can do this. A student can do this. An educator can do this. A system administrator can do this. Anyone who's in the Blackboard Learn environment using the social tools has the ability to report someone. So this is the quick form that you can fill out to report someone. It's very easy. You can highlight what you're reporting, give some more detail about the reason, and you can submit this. And another thing to note is that the system will never share the person's identity with the person that you are reporting. So this is another thing that we heard from students when we were building these tools. This is important to them as well. Now we often get the question, where do these reports go? So if someone is reported, that is collected in the sysadmin panel, the system administrator panel in Blackboard Learn. And now different schools are taking different approaches to monitoring, monitoring the reports for these reported profiles and reported actions. Some schools, for example, or some system administrators, for example, have set up a policy where they send the reports to the appropriate person in the school that the student is a part of. So I'm thinking of the University of Shenandoah, for example, a client that I worked with who presented on social learning at BB World. I'm not sure if anyone has seen that presentation. We actually have a recording of that presentation that I can share with this group. But they are rolling out these tools, and they have decided that they are going to work with the appropriate folks in each of the colleges or each of the schools within their university, and they are going to take the appropriate action on reported profiles. So, there is a system in place. It is a community monitored system to be able to monitor for inappropriate content and report. And so far, we've seen schools having success and setting up the correct policies to address this type of issue that could, potentially arise in a network like this. So I mentioned Annie Adams, and I talked about her profile and the different things that you can do using her profile card. Now I'm going to go in and just show you her full profile. So this is what it looks like to look at someone else's profile. Again, you can see all the posts here on the right, and you can actually comment right here very quickly and easily. Click comment, and that is how you can quickly and easily interact with someone through their profile wall. You can also, from their profile, send them a message. You can block or report them. You can also see their network. So you can see who they're following, who their followers are, as well as any spaces that they're a part of. And again, this is really to help foster other people to be able to connect with each other, to generate interest in other spaces that people are involved in. So I talked about creating your identity through a profile and then being able to discover others through the people tool. So now I'm going to talk about other ways that you can communicate with your learning network. And one of those ways is through the new Messages tool. Now the new Messages tool is a way to quickly and easily communicate with others. And what's nice about this is, we do have the Course Messages tool, which is about course communication. The Messages tool can be used to message anyone in your learning network. So you can be sending messages to people that, aren't in your courses. You can be sending messages to people who, are part of groups or clubs or study groups, for example, that you want to connect with. You can also send messages to other people in your learning network who aren't even at your institution. So that is a nice feature of the Messages tool. And you can click on the different messages and see the conversation that you have going on with each person. You can also see that you can have a conversation with multiple people. In this case, this message is between 3 different people. And it's really quick and easy to compose a message. I showed you on the profile card, in the actual profile itself, you can click and create and send a message right from there. You can also compose your message from this messages screen. So you can type a name. I'm going to pick on Misty, and she's here with me today. I'm going to choose Misty Cobb. I can write her a message and quickly just click send message, and that is it. So it's that quick and easy to be able to create a quick message. Now, the last tool that I wanted to show you is the Spaces tool. So Spaces are really exciting to me, and students have shown a lot of excitement about this as well. And Spaces are great because they are a quick and easy way to create an ad hoc group for communication and collaboration. So some of you may be familiar with organizations, for example. And organizations and how they differ from a space, organizations are really a full-featured collaboration area. So as you probably know, organizations are similar to a course environment. They're full-featured. You can do everything that you can do in a course in an organization. Whereas a space is a lot more lightweight. It's a lot more ad hoc. Anyone can create one. You don't need to go to an administrator. You don't need to have permission to create a space. You literally can click create a space. You can give it a name. You can invite people to the space. So I'm going to invite Misty again. And if I want to look at my other options, I can do so. I can also press Get Started, and literally it will create the space right then and there. But I'm going to show you what the other options are. So as you can see here, you can edit your space name. You can change the picture. So you can give it a picture here. You can also give it a category. And this enables others to be able to identify or find your space by searching different categories. So I'm going to say that this is a club, for example. You can give your space a description. And again, you have different privacy options. So starting from the bottom, you can make your space private. So for this setting, your space will not appear in any searches. The only searches it will show up in is when the manager of the space looks for it and members of the space look for it. So the only way really to become a part of this space is for a manager to invite you. And the manager is the person who creates the space. But you can also promote people to also manage the space. So there can be multiple managers of your space. And when the space is private, We typically see this for things like a study group or a research project. So this is going to be a quick, short-term, probably space. You don't want people to be able to search and enter it. It's just a limited number of people doing a very specific thing like studying or, working on a project or working on something together. So that is really the purpose of having a private space. You can also have a protected space. And a protected space allows any Blackboard user to search for the space, but they have to request to join or be invited by one of the managers to join the space. We often see a lot of people, making protected spaces maybe for, different groups on campus. Maybe they want to, restrict it to people who are actually part of a specific group or at the institution, or, they want to limit who's going to actually be part of the space. So it's suitable for people to search, but you have to request or be asked to join. The third option is really making an open public space, a space that is available to all Blackboard users. So any Blackboard user can view and join the space. And we see this a lot with different interest groups, student interest groups or educators who are focusing on a specific topic, and they want to have it open to other peers who are interested in the same thing. So those are the three settings here for a space. So I'm going to cancel out of here. I'm not actually going to make this space. So this is the test space, but I'm going to show you a real space. So these are the different spaces that Suzanne is a part of. So you can see at the top the spaces she manages. So she actually manages 3 spaces, but she's part of 6 different spaces. She's part of the Biology Fan Club, the Biology Research Group, the Class of 2017 cohort. She's part of a Track and Field group. So you can see all the different types of spaces that a student, for example, would be a part of. And when you look at a space, you can see here that you're able to communicate with the different people in the space through the space wall. So different people can post to the wall, can comment to each other. And then you also have the options like a profile to be able to report this space. If you do find any inappropriate content, if you do think anything is going on that you find that you need to report, you can easily do so here. So that is a quick overview of spaces. And the last thing I just want to show you is the post tool. So the post tool aggregates posts from across all of the social learning tools. So from profile walls of people that you're following, from spaces that you're a part of. It also consolidates posts from your courses and organizations. So your discussion board posts, your blogs, your wikis, your journals within your courses. But as you can see here, this is really the quick and easy way to stay up to date on all the conversations going on. So it's a chronological stream, familiar to many of us who are used to using other social tools. And you can see here there's a post in the Class of 2017 cohort space. There's a post to someone in my network's profile wall. So you can see all that here. You can see any comments that have been made. And you can also comment directly from here. So you can get involved in the conversation right from the post tool. So this is really the place where you can stay engaged in the conversation, stay up to date on all of the social conversations, as well as all the course conversations. As I mentioned with the discussion boards, the blogs, the journals that are coming from your courses. So it's an easy way for students and educators to stay up to date and stay engaged. So I'm going to flip back over to the chat. And I see that Misty has been answering a lot of questions, which is great. And Misty, are there any questions that you feel we should address?
It might be helpful, Francesca, if you could just explain the license. There have been several questions about what you have to license in order to take advantage of these tools.
Sure. So to take advantage of the full social learning tool set that I shared today, you have to license the community engagement module. So I'm not sure if this came up, Misty, but some people, may have a basic profile and a basic people tool in their environment. The basic people tool and the basic profile are available with the course delivery license. And when I say the basic profile, that means you only have a profile card. So you don't actually have this full profile that you can see here. You aren't able to actually have a profile wall where you post and communicate with others. And the people tool, the basic people tool, only shows you who is at your institution. You cannot actually interact. So when you look at a profile card, you can't actually view the profile. You can't send a message. You can't follow people. So the community engagement module really allows you to interact with your network. It allows you to have that full profile so that you can interact and communicate through that profile wall. It allows you to connect and follow others, to build this learning network by following others. It allows you to message others. It allows you to create spaces. So the community engagement module is required to do all the things that I showed you today. And yes, and Misty clarified, you do need to have Service Pack 10 or higher to take advantage of these new features.
And Francesca, I think you might have a slide or two left if you wanted to finish those, and then we can open it up for general dedicated Q&A, because there are some more questions coming in, unless you wanted to go to the Q&A now.
Great. Yes. Let me jump into. I just wanted to bring up a few ideas to the group. I wanted to also get your perspective on these. These are things that I have been talking with educators about. I wanted to share them with you all and also get some perspective. When it comes to educators fostering social learning, as you saw from these tools, they are very student-driven. They are very user-driven. So that could be the student driving the usage, or an educator, connecting with their peers or connecting with students. So I wanted to share some ideas in terms of fostering social learning. When it comes to being an educator, you can be using your profile to share information and resources with your network. So I see some educators linking to online articles, to videos, to websites in their profile, and having students follow them and stay up to date on areas that they're interested in. The students are following those professors and those educators that they are some of their favorite professors, those that they want to learn more from outside of the classroom. So you can use your profile to do this, to mentor people, to drive this engagement through your profile. You can also set up spaces for your courses. We're also seeing that many educators are having a student do so. So sometimes the educator wants to be part of that space, and sometimes the educator really wants the students to really run and drive that space. So sometimes they ask one of their students to set up the course space. You can also be encouraging the use of spaces for study groups within your courses, for group projects, for interest groups. So, giving your students ideas for things that they can be doing and utilizing spaces for. If you're an advisor or a mentor, we see people using the social tools to connect with their advisees and their mentees. So, for example, I know some educators who are creating a space for all of their advisees. So, they can be speaking with each other, they can be speaking with their advisor. So it's keeping that line of communication open through the space environment. Also, if you're a sponsor of a student club, of an organization, of maybe the department club, a biology club, ensuring that there's a space set up for that, so having either a student set up the space or you can set up the space for the organization. Different ideas for fostering this social learning among your students. And then there's also the opportunity for educators themselves to take part in social learning. So we see educators themselves sharing ideas and best practices using the social tools, sending messages to each other, creating spaces among themselves to go beyond, formal and traditional professional development opportunities. We see educators messaging colleagues in order to have quick conversations, ask questions of each other, and we're finding that this is a really useful tool rather than cluttering everyone's email inboxes with back and forth conversations. You can also set up a space to communicate about a shared professional interest. So, just like student clubs and student groups and student interest groups, we also see educators doing this as well. And you can also be using spaces for departmental communication, communicating across your department, communicating amongst committees or special project groups, special task forces. So we see a lot of different ways that educators are starting to use these tools for their own social learning. So this is just a recap of what we discussed today in terms of using these social learning tools to enable students and educators to identify, connect, and communicate with the global learning network, to really foster that informal learning, to extend the learning experience beyond the classroom, and as I mentioned, ultimately, we built these to drive student engagement, to drive that campus connectedness that is really necessary to retain students, to retain these active learners. And with that, I will leave the next few minutes open for questions. I know Misty is doing a great job in the chat window.
Great, thank you, Francesca, and a big thank you to Misty also, who so far I think has answered all of the questions, but we will now open it up for a dedicated Q&A. So if you need further clarification on anything that Misty answered, or if you have follow-up questions or new questions, please feel free to post those in the chat now, and we'll take the next 5 minutes to answer those questions. I know we're following up on one from Janice right now. So feel free to type in and we'll get those answered for you. And yes, to answer your question, this webinar will be recorded and the recording email will go out this week. We try to get them out within 48 hours. So look for that in your email sometime this week, and we also will post the webinar on our Bit to YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and search for Blackboard TV and type in the Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series, you'll be able to pull up all of the webinars we've done this year so far. And we'll also include that link in the recording email that we send out, so you'll have it handy. So we have a question, Francesca, if you just want to verbally answer this one from Janice. Every semester we create new Blackboard shells that are automatically generated. If a student creates a profile for the fall semester, will that same information be saved for spring and summer semesters too, and so on?
Yes. So the profile is actually a lifelong profile. So this profile will remain with them as they go through their career at your institution. And the profile is actually something that can be used across different institutions that a student may be involved in. So for example, if they are coming from a high school that is using social learning tools and they are moving to your institution and they have a profile, they can actually use that same profile. They can connect to that profile to continue using one lifelong profile. We see this a lot with undergrad moving to a graduate school, for example. We also see this with a student, for example. They may be a student at one school, but maybe they're a grad student, but they're teaching at another school. So sometimes people wanted to have the same profile to be able to manage all of their social learning interactions from one place, and when I say one place, they can actually do this through logging in to any of their Blackboard environments. They'll be able to manage all of the connections that they have, all of the all of the spaces, all of the messages. So being able to have one profile across your lifelong learning experience. These tools are also available on course sites. If you do not yet have these tools available in your environment, you can take a test run and just check them out for yourself by looking at course sites. And there's a question, are the profiles cross-platform? Can you use the same profile with Blackboard, Moodle, and other LMSs? So right now, the social learning tools are just part of Blackboard Learn. They're not part of our other LMS environments that Blackboard supports. However, this could definitely change in the future. So definitely keep an eye out for that.
And as Francesca and Misty had noted, they are available on course sites. So if you license a Blackboard Learn instance or if you have a free account hosted on course sites. And then another question from Nikki, are all discussion posts, assignments, etc. permanently archived forever, or what is deleted and when? And I think Misty just answered this question. She said course-related communications and content and related archives are the responsibility of the instructor or course builder. So Nikki, let us know if you have any follow-up questions about that.
Yeah, just to clarify, the discussion posts, assignments, etc., those are really different than the social learning tools. Those are really course-specific. So those things really don't apply to what I spoke about in terms of the profiles and messages and spaces, given those are outside of the courses, the social learning tools. Yeah, Misty just clarified, the social interactions are not part of the course archive. Yeah, the social learning tools are really, outside of the course. They're extending the learning experience. They're, beyond the course, or even beyond, the institution itself. They are cross-institution when it comes to all of our Blackboard learning schools.
And I just want to give another thank you to Misty. I know she has to drop off for another call, so big thank you for her support today. If you still have questions, type them in and we'll be answering them. Francesca and I will be on for a little longer. Just a reminder that next week we'll be talking about setting up your course in Blackboard Learn without a template. Phoebe Ballard from the University of Toledo will be presenting on that, and you can register for that webinar at blackboard.com/bits. Another big thank you to our presenter today, Francesca Goneconti, Monaco, and for all of her help with social learning. If you have any follow-up questions, we will put our emails in the chat so you can reach out to our team just about social learning in general or the community engagement platform. So thank you everyone for attending today. Have a great rest of your week.